But the Jews were looking for trouble, can't you see? And when you're looking for a fight, oh, any excuse will do. Where does he say, I am God? Where does he say, worship me? So the DD had another idea. He said, you know, in the first chapter of John, chapter 1, verse 1, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And that Word is Jesus. So he's God. I'm asking, where did Jesus say that he's God, or where did he say, worship me? These are the words of a Jewish philosopher called Philo. Long before Jesus was born, he wrote this in his own book. This, our John, or whoever he was, he plagiarized it. He stole that man's writing and he put it into the New Testament in his own gospel. Plagiarized it. Word for word. But never mind. Whatever Philo had in his mind, we won't go into that. I'm asking the Reverend. I said, do you know Greek? He said, yes. I did Greek for 5 years before qualification. I said, in that case, you can help me. I said, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. I said, what is the Greek word there for God? And he started staring at me. It seemed as if the game was up. I said, the word there is Hotheos in Greek. And Hotheos means the God, which you put a capital G, proper noun. You see, the Western nations, they have a system that when you have a common noun, you put a small letter, and when you have a proper noun, you put a capital letter. You know that. Common noun, small letter, proper noun, capital letter. So for the God, it becomes proper, definite article, so they put a capital G. Very good, that's your system. But I said, and the word was God. What is the Greek word there for God? No answer. I say, it's tontheos, means a God, and for a God means any God, means a godly person. It should have a small g. But I says, you know what? In 2 Corinthians 4:4, in the Bible, it says here, and the devil is the God of this world. The devil is the God of this world. And in Greek, the word is Hotheos, the God. I said, why did you give the devil a small g? Why are you grudging him a capital G? So why do you play fast and loose with the book of God? You, whenever it suits you, whatever suits you, you put capital letters where it suits you and small letters where it suits you. God Almighty speaks to Moses and he says, behold, I have made you a God to Pharaoh, and Aaron thy brother shall be thy prophet. A God to Pharaoh, and you give Moses a small g. Why? For a word, W-O-R-D word, they put a capital G. But for Moses, they give him a small g in the Bible. So why do you do that? He said, I didn't do it. I said, I know you didn't do it. But I said, the vested interest that you represent, why do you play fast and loose with the book of God? If this is the book of God, why do you play fast and loose with it? This is it. This is our complaint. Why aren't you consistent? Because if you are consistent, perhaps all these problems wouldn't arise between us. Now, the only thing that is left that can make Jesus God, as the Christians say, is that he gave life to the dead. And this is the prerogative of God. Very true. He stilled the storm. The Quran doesn't go into any details about his miracles. The only detail is about him speaking as an infant. That's the only detail. The rest is, it tells us that he gave life to the dead by God's permission. He healed those born blind and the lepers by God's permission. He gave life to the dead by God's permission. We accept. But the details, no details in the Quran. The Quran is not a book of stories. It only tells us where there is a difference. It tells us how to come right. So Jesus gave life to the dead. We say by God's permission. But if you take this to confer divinity, there are others in the Bible who perform greater miracles than Jesus. If this is the highest miracle, giving life to the dead, I say it is an impossibility. And because it is an impossibility, if it is done, it's a miracle. A miracle is an impossibility. But I says, a greater impossibility than giving life back to the dead is to take a piece of stick, like Moses did, a piece of stick, a rod, and he turned it into a vegetable kingdom, life, made it into a piece of vegetable. And that vegetable, he made it into a snake, animal kingdom. And this snake went and swallowed up all these snakes of the Egyptians. I said, greater than Jesus. Then Elisha, the rotten bones of Elisha, they were burying a man. And when this corpse, this dead body, came into contact with the rotten bones of Elisha, it revived the corpse back to life. Elisha's rotten bones didn't have to say, Talitha Kumi, damsel arise, or Lazarus come out. Didn't have to do that. Just mere touch. This is the Bible, the Holy Bible tells us. The very touch of the rotten bones of Elisha brought the man back to life. Who is greater, I ask you? If these are the standards of judging, these are false standards of judging. Christ told us, he said, for there shall arise many false prophets and false Christs, who will show you great signs and wonders, if it were possible to deceive the very elect. These are not the tests of a true man or a false man. Even false prophets and false Christs can do miracles. Whereas John the Baptist, the greatest of the Israelite prophets according to Jesus, Jesus said, among those born of women, there has not risen another greater than John the Baptist. And yet John the Baptist performed no miracles whatsoever. These are not the standards of judging greatness or smallness of a messenger of God. But since they insist that Christ gave life back to Lazarus, after 3 days or 4 days, the man was stinking in his grave, and he brought him back from the dead. I said, well, let's analyze it. Who did the works? Who did the job? Did Jesus do it? Did he do it? Did he say he did it? No. We learn from the scriptures, Gospel of St. John. Unfortunately, John is the only one who records this miracle. Imagine, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, they have not one word about Lazarus. Not one word about Lazarus. This is the mightiest miracle of Jesus, but Matthew didn't know anything about it, Mark didn't know anything about it, Luke knew nothing about it. All right, let's see what John tells us. He tells us that Lazarus was sick and he died, and Jesus was not there. When he comes to the village, the sisters of Lazarus, Martha and Mary, they tell him, he says, Master, if you were here with us, our brother would not have died. Meaning, if you can heal other people's sicknesses, perhaps my brother's sickness would not have been unto death. So Jesus tells them, assures them, that even now, if you have faith, you will see the glory of God. Not my glory, glory of God. Even now. He says, where have you laid him? Take me. Show me, where have you laid him? So they start taking Jesus to the sepulchre. Not a grave, sepulchre, big roomy chamber. And while walking, he's crying to God. He's praying to God. And the Bible tells us, Jesus wept. Shortest sentence in the Bible, 2 words. Shortest sentence, you can remember that. Jesus wept. And he groaned in the spirit. What is groaned in the spirit? I'm asking, what is groaned in the spirit? In other words, he was actually communicating with God. The words were inaudible. They couldn't make out. Incoherent. He's pouring out a prayer to God. Oh my Lord, my friend, Lazarus, please help him. He's crying and sobbing. The words are not clear enough for the bystanders to listen, so they say he's groaning. Groaning, no groaning. This is his pouring his heart out to God. We do the same. When you're crying out something, the words are not heard properly, but it sounds like a groaning. It's no groaning. It's praying. And God assures him that he'll get what he wants. He wants to bring Lazarus out from the dead. That's his wish. And when he gets the assurance, he says, remove the stone. So they remove the stone. And he lifts up his eyes towards heaven. Now they can hear what he has to say. He said, oh my Father, I know that thou hast heard me. What? That groaning. He was praying to God. I know that thou hast heard me, and I know that thou hearest me always. Everything that I did was on account of you hearing me, listening to, answering my prayers. And I know that thou hearest me always, but because of the people that stood by, these superstitious, credulous people, they will think that I'm a God. Because of these people, I said it. I am putting up an act, talking loudly that they may know who's doing the works. And I know that thou hearest me always. But because of the people that stood by, I said it, that they may believe that thou hast sent me. You are doing the works. He says, it is God who's doing the works. The Quran says, it is God who's doing the works. Peter testifies in the book of Acts to the Jews. He says, ye men of Israel, O Jews, hear these words. Jesus of Nazareth, a man approved of God among you,